Hello, and welcome to episode 150 of Design Curious Podcast. I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. Can't believe I've done 150 episodes. Okay, today we have a great interview with Caron Woolsey. Let me tell you a little bit more about her. Some are fortunate to discover their passion when they're young. Caron Woolsey is one of them. A native Texan, growing up, Caron spent the summers visiting her grandparents in New Orleans. This is where her love of interior design, historic homes, and her appreciation for Creole and French colonial architecture was born. After graduating summa cum laude from Texas Tech, Caron embarked on a career in oil and gas, which spanned 16 years. While she loved her career, she often felt it wasn't her true calling. After the birth of her second child and a relocation back to her hometown of Fort Worth, for her husband's job, Caron took on an ultra-personal, creative endeavor, the design of her new home. A new construction home she delighted in, working alongside her builder from the ground up to bring her dream home to life. During the process, Caron caught the attention of other local home builders, and once her home was complete with homeowners, she began consulting on interior design projects until it became clear that it was no longer a creative hobby. In 2017, after relocating to the Woodlands with her family, she officially founded CW Interiors. Since opening the doors of her studio, she's grown her team to 6 and has had the privilege of partnering with developers, home builders, and homeowners to create storytelling homes in the Woodlands, Houston, and Conroe metropolitan areas. I know you're going to love this interview, so let's get into it. You're now listening to Design Curious, a place where you, creative one, are here to learn about what it really is like to be an interior designer. And I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. If you're worried about how to succeed in a creative career, if you're ready to learn your next steps to become an interior designer, and if you want the satisfaction of doing something you love every day, you are in the right place. Grab a coffee, a notebook, and let's dig into today's episode. Hey, Caron, welcome to Design Curious Podcast. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, of course. And I'm excited about our topic today. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about how you got into interior design, because I always like to ask everyone's path. Everyone has a different path.
Sure.
And part of the point of this podcast is to show people who are curious about the career that there's many avenues. Like everyone comes from some different direction into interior design. So we'd love to hear your story, and then we'll get on into building a team.
Yeah. Well, thanks for asking. I've always been creative in many different ways. Like I love to write, I love to craft, I love to design, I love all the things. I love to bake. I taught for a little while, and then I actually went into oil and gas, and that kind of fell into my lap a little bit. It was my summer job, and then they asked me to stick around, and I did, and then it just kept going, and I kept moving up and up, and I love the people, but I didn't love the work. But I'm very grateful for the business education that it gave me, because it was a small company, so you learned everything there. And then eventually it just got to a point where I had 2 little kids, and I couldn't do it all. Like I just couldn't do it all. So I stayed home. About that time, my husband and I decided to build a house. And so that became my passion. I loved it. And we built our forever home, and the builder liked it and would start picking my brain about things or his specs. And then another builder did that. I loved that part of it. But then when we got transferred down here to the Woodlands from Fort Worth, I just figured that was great, but it's over. And so kind of threw myself into the move. And then we bought this older home that needed a ton of work. I did all of that. And then, kids, their parents, my kids' friends' parents would come over and be like, "Oh, I'm loving it. Can you help me do mine? Can you help me do mine?"
Sure.
And my husband was like, "That's it. You're doing it. Go." And I'm such a perfectionist that I probably wouldn't have ever, I kept thinking of reasons why I should not. Just went for it. And I'm grateful that it's taken off in the way it has.
Can I talk to you a little more about how you just went for it? So what were the first steps that you really had to overcome to start your business?
In reality, one of my good friends who I made in the Woodlands and my husband got together and they were like, that's it, we're doing it. We had pictures taken of the house and I didn't even have social media. So my friend was like, I'm putting it on social media and saying CW Interiors, call them. And then people started calling.
Wow.
And that's how it started. Yeah.
Wow. Well, you had some business experience because you did work for the small business where you had obviously wear a lot of hats. So getting off the ground, though, was there any struggles that you faced kind of that you weren't expecting?
So I tried to do everything, and I did do everything myself for a long time. And it involved like many weekends, never getting out of my pajamas and learning QuickBooks and learning how to report tax and learning, I had done all of that in the oil and gas industry, but carrying that over, interesting. So I never had social media, still don't personally. Overcoming that was giant, and it's still not my forte to this day. It's just like a necessary blessing and a curse, right?
Sure.
Everything from working with people who build your website. And I think it's also where my English background, like the creative writing and all of that, like you have to just dig in and you have to research and you have to focus and you have to go down a million rabbit holes to such depths that you have to be willing to put that sweat equity in. It's not just pretty. It would be great if that were true, but it's just not. It's all the things, all those details matter to make it profitable.
Yeah.
And, interacting with clients, that was a whole new dimension for me, right? Like a spec is one thing, but a person is another. So that was all huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have any other designers that you modeled after or had a mentor or a coach or anything like that? Or how did you develop your systems for your design?
No. So my background, to go even further back, so my parents moved to Texas before I was born, but they're both from New Orleans. So all the extended family was in New Orleans. So we would do Christmases, summer, spring breaks, always in New Orleans. So I've always loved that city, loved the architecture, loved the design. And so that really started out as kind of like my focus. But then as I started working with individuals, it was really fun to connect with them and bring their best version of themselves out. And so it was just me. I did not have anybody I was modeling after. I did not have a mentor other than like watching the builders. That a little different. I just kind of navigated it, and it was just me for a while. And it became a client who, she's still one of my best friends to this day. She was one of my first clients, but she became my assistant, just divine intervention. I feel like the team came to me, like my right-hand man is named Allison Taylor. She's our lead designer now. And she is the yin to my yang, whereas I love that old New Orleans vibe. She is very much edgy and modern and takes big swings. If you saw her, you'd be like, oh, okay. She's just like I said, the yin to my yang. And so that partnership has been huge for CW Interiors, because when I'm spinning out, she grounds me. And so that's been wonderful. And then we have another designer who's come on board, and she is color extravaganza. I mean, when she writes an email, it's only with 10 exclamation points after everything. And that's kind of how it's developed. So first it was Allison, and then it was Nikki, who's the color one that I was talking about. And now we have Lauren, who's another designer on our team. And she's actually from Lafayette, Louisiana, but she's super minimalistic. And now we had just hired another one, and her name's Madison Caldwell. And she is our baby on staff. She is the one who loves antiques the most, which I think. So,
yeah.
An accountant, a CPA, who was a client also, but now she does all of our bookkeeping and taxes for us, and we have an operations coordinator. That's way more than you wanted to know, but that's evolution of the team.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's peel that back and start talking about how to build a team, because I'm sure that your story is relatable for a lot of people who, similar situation. People are telling them, you got to go into design. You got to do this for a living because you're so good at it. But then they have their business and they have more work than they can handle. So how do you know when it's time to hire?
That's hard. If you're brave enough to get started, and if you're detail oriented and type A enough to make it thrive, because all of those details matter, it's very difficult, for me at least it was, to be willing to delegate and hire those people, because you died to get this thing going. And eventually you just realize you can't grow without delegation. And so once you're drowning, you just have to be aware and be on the lookout for the right people, because the wrong person can be worse than no person. So you just have to be aware. You have to look for the character of people, which is huge. And I think you get to the point of knowing you need to grow before you find the person, right? And so I think it's hard when you're like, it's time to hire. Let's go on Indeed.com and hire somebody. Sometimes that works out great, but other times it's hard. It almost needs to happen organically. You have to be open and aware.
Yeah, that is a little bit daunting in and of itself to hire someone on, especially going from 0 to 1, like to
That's
manage.
the hardest part.
Yeah, it's like having kids, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like learning how to manage someone, even the business side of it, of like having an employee or maybe they're independent contractor, but still, it's a whole different role that you also have to take on as well.
Right. It is. Yeah. And that's another thing that you just said, independent contractor to employee. That's another hurdle, right? Like at first was independent contractor, but the IRS is very picky about, okay, are they an independent contractor? Because I'm not, you can get away with that, which is great. People deserve to be employees, but that's a scary thing too, because it's just more risk. Every time it's more risk. And you just have to be open to the right person and also give yourself grace, because inevitably, you're not going to bat 1,000. Everybody's not going to be the perfect fit. You pray, you hope for that. But if you grow enough, eventually you're going to have to deal with that as well.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you look for then when it starts to happen and you're noticing, okay, I need to have someone come and help me, and you're open to the idea, but you know that you have a job description that you need to fill, but you also need a personality that works with yours and other characteristics. So what did you have like a checklist you were going off of, or just intuition?
At first, honestly, the first couple of times, it was just intuition, and I got super lucky and it worked out. But I think there's a couple of things. One, they have to be willing to be part of a team. It doesn't matter if they're super talented. If they can't be collaborative, then it's probably not going to be a good fit for a growing business. And so that's the character, and that's huge, because you can't really teach character. The other thing is, and this is something I think a lot of people struggle with, and I certainly can relate, but my theory is I don't want anybody in their specific role who is not better at what they specifically are doing than I am. So, I taught myself accounting, but the CPA is better at accounting than I am.
Right.
And then I love color, but my friend Nikki, she does color better than I do color. So everybody's got their place in the business, and I can do all of what they do, but I can't do it better than what their specialty is. And I'm great with that.
Yeah. So that's also an interesting point to bring up, is because you're letting other people have some creative roles as well in your business. Does that take away at all from your enjoyment of being an interior designer? Like, are you not designing as much as you want to? Or isn't that always the risk that people think, well, then I'll just be managing and I won't be designing?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It depends on the day that you ask me. So, for example, yesterday, for a charity auction, we donated a consult, and I went solo to the winner's house and worked with them. And I had a blast. I had a blast because it was just, she and I working there together, and we were both enthusiastic. Like, that brought me so much joy. And so I do make sure that we are doing a lot of those for me because I enjoy it. But at the same time, it's not a huge project that I'm like shouldering all on my own because I do have to have my head on a swivel with all the parts of the business. So I would say, yes, it's unfortunate that I don't get to design a whole lot anymore, but also just make sure that you're sprinkling in at least something that you get to do to nurture your creativity, or else it won't be worth it anymore.
Yeah, that feels
the balance. Yeah. And there are certain weeks, I mean, you can ask my husband, that I'm like, I love it. I love it. And then it's like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Like, what have I done?
Yeah.
And so I kind of like try to keep it on an average, like 90% of the time I love my job. And I think that's accurate. I would say about 90% of the time I love my job. And that's still good. That's an A.
That's a lot better than many people can say. So
I agree.
Yeah.
So just make sure if you're drowning in the minutia of the business part, just find a way, get those in. Give, those auction winners, those are so fun.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely say to make sure you're giving yourself some of those.
Yeah. So you talked about how you can't teach character. And I think one of the ways we talked about to attract the right person to come along is to have established your mission and your values for your business. How did you go about doing that process?
Because I ended up leaving my other job because just the obligations of the kids. I've always wanted to be very family friendly. That's been super important to me. And so while we obviously have a business to run, I do try to make it as flexible as possible. So we don't have a single office space where we report every day. We do have a weekly in-person staff meeting where we connect, but then the rest of the time we get to be flexible. And that's been huge. I really try to treat my staff like family. So I said I love to bake. Like every Monday, I have baked goodies for them, all packaged up for them to take home. It's like the reverse biscuits from the boss instead of biscuits for your right. And that's worked great because we are all moms at this point, different stages. And that's been great for us because a ton of flexibility. You have deadlines, but as long as you're meeting your deadlines, I don't care when you're doing the work. I mean, when we are client facing, obviously we need to all be there. But I've tried to give that grace. We have a vacation policy. It's not necessarily restrictive, but you need to make sure you're backfilling your, tagging somebody in if you're going to be out. So I think that's been great. And when I approach them that way, then, they have grace too, because it's a small business. So sometimes there are crunches and emergencies and fires to put out.
Yeah.
We just have to work together.
Yeah. Well, that's a good philosophy. You're leading by example and everyone's coming alongside.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a saint. Like some days I'm like, what are we doing? But I would say, again, 90% of the time, it works great.
Good. How do you encourage then the work-life balance? You mentioned not discouraging people from taking vacations, but what else have you set up for your employees?
Well, we're just in constant communication. We do try to do a couple of fun things a year. We do a big holiday party every year. It's just, we've grown so much in the last couple of years that it's just been so busy that it's hard to work that time in, but I feel like it's important to do that too. We also are always checking in with each other. If we know somebody's kid's having a hard time or somebody's mom is sick, I feel like we're so close that almost every day it's like working with your friends at this point.
So you don't have necessarily a studio or anything that you all work out of, but so how do you keep in communication with each other throughout the day?
Email, text, like constant. We're texting all day. And that's been good. I do think we've all started to make a very concerted effort to respect. Officially, our work hours are 9 to 4. We do try to do a very good job of leaving each other alone outside of that. And we do have a centralized phone system that we use. It's cloud-based and kind of separate ourselves when we want to. And I tell them it's okay to sign off. If I email on a weekend, I do not expect a response on a weekend. I have to communicate that all the time.
Yeah.
Again, it's respect for each other.
Mm-hmm. That's really good. Let me ask, because you didn't go to school for design, you didn't have a degree for design.
Right.
Do you require that as a requirement for hiring someone, a designer? Do you ask that they have a degree, or does that matter to you?
Some do, some don't in design. Like I said, with the rabbit holes, it's so funny because I have an English degree and I did very well in school, but I have put more time into the interior design research than anything else. So I did the Quizlet the other day for the NCIDQ test that you sit for to get the degree certification, and I aced it. I was like, okay, I've gone down enough rabbit holes at this point. So I have that knowledge, like when I'm reviewing somebody's design, like think of this. And we do have people on staff who also have that knowledge at this point and are in it. And so everything is peer reviewed. So our clients, while the designer may not necessarily have that, it's getting reviewed by people. And so that's been huge.
Yeah. I think that would be encouraging for some of our listeners, because a lot of the people who come through my mentorship program don't have time to go back to school to get another degree, but they're wondering, like, I want to work for someone for a little while. Will they hire me without having a degree in design?
My response to that would be, how much of a self-starter are you? Like, if you're designing this and you know that's the ceiling height, like, maybe I'll give you grace the first time that happens, but if I have to correct that, I'm going to expect you to remember that from now. And so, they just have to be a self-starter. They have to be good at research, and then they have to be good at remembering that going forward.
Learning on the job. The job itself is your degree.
They have to be coachable.
Yes. Good. Okay, well, this has been great. What other advice, if any, do you have for an up-and-coming designer who's interested, maybe just to get started like you did? Like, just do it.
Started. Get started.
Just do it. Okay.
Yeah, it's scary. I was thinking before this podcast, and I've been in some scary situations, but the most scared I may have ever been in my career was the first consult for a client, not a builder, but like a person. That's the scariest I've been in forever. But also following that was maybe the best I felt. You know, it's high risk, high reward. So let's say that you try and you fail. You tried. I mean, that guts. I mean, you had the guts, right?
Yeah.
So just do it.
Yeah.
Because I would respect the guts more than a swing and a miss is still a swing. So do it.
For sure. Yeah. Well, that's wonderful, Caron. Thank you so much for coming on today. We'll put all of your contact information in the show notes if someone would like to reach out to you, and they can check. Now, I know you don't like social media, but are you?
I have social media and it is partnered, so I will get it. And no, I love it. Like I said, I could talk about this all day.
Yeah.
I would invite anybody to reach out anytime.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Caron. It's been great talking with you. So great to hear Caron's story. Hopefully very inspiring for you. Don't forget, we have some great things in the show notes. You can also find the contact information for Caron there if you're interested in reaching out to her. But we also have some downloads, and we have a quiz. We've got information about My Design Mentor, which you might be wanting if you're looking for an online mentorship platform to work with me on getting your career started. All right, next week we're going to have another great episode. Until then, stay creative. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode, please leave a rating and a review. This helps me reach other curious creatives like you. If you have a topic request or would like to contact me, simply head over to my website, rwarddesign.com, or email me at podcast@rwarddesign.com.